You wanted to give a special shout out?
Oh yeah, dude. Shout out to Tommy Lovegood, who comments on our videos. Tommy number one.
Number one.
Shout out to Ben Scheffner, who actually watched the video or two.
Ben Scheffner.
Shout out to Bianca, she watched the video. And then shout out to my mom. I think she watched the video. Oh no. Oh, Achilles fights the right. I was actually excited for this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. You can give us a recap of what was the last one? The Olympian gods in arms.
So Olympian gods, they have arms.
Yeah, I remember them all gathering together.
Like
It was a tug of the Lego movie. I'm not sure if it was in the Iliad or Us.
There's a bunch of murdering and a bunch of monologuing. And that's pretty much... They all called each other babies because they were talking too much. Time.
Yeah. Well, Achilles wants to kill Hector real bad. And Achilles just like sweepity swoop everyone on his way. Like chop, 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 chop. And as he's making like Trojan sashimi, Hector's like, yo, come at me. But then the gods are like, dude, like, you really don't want him coming at you. You really don't want this right now. Hector's like, no, I got this. But then gods are like, all right. Apollo's like, okay, dude, I got you. You're not smart in that kind of way, so I'm going to protect you real quick. And then Achilles is like, I'm coming for you. And he's coming for him.
The gods keeping like, oh, it's not going to go the way we want if we don't intervene. So let's all intervene on opposite sides so we cancel each other out, and it makes no sense.
Basically. Yeah. They're duking it out.
For immortal beings, they're pretty dumb.
They are. They're pretty much just big people.
They're big people.
Well, all these people act like 17-year-old boys anyway, so they're basically just like large 17-year-old boys.
Yeah.
I mean, bro, like, who doesn't, am I right?
We're going to see more of the gods being large 17-year-old boys in this episode.
Nice.
These gods is boys.
Classic.
Classic. Wow. Indeed. This is quite classic.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, so let's get going. Achilles fights the river. We pick up right where we left off. Achilles is killing people. But once they reach the ford where the river runs clear, the strong, whirling Xanthus River, sprung of immortal Zeus, Achilles split the Trojan route, driving one half back toward the city, scattering up the plain where Chians themselves stampeded off in terror just the day before when Hector raged unchecked. So they're going right up the place where yesterday the Achaeans were retreating. So half go up there. Now back in their tracks, the Trojans fled pell-mell, while Hera spread dense cloud ahead to block their way, because Hera loves the Achaeans. Mm-hmm. The other half, so half of the Trojan army, the other half, were packed in the silver whirling river. Into its foaming depths they tumbled, splashing, flailing, the plunging river roaring, banks echoing, roaring back, and the men screamed, swimming wildly left and right, spinning round in the whirlpools. Spun like locusts swarming up in the air, whipped by rushing fire, flitting toward a river. The tireless fire blazes, scorching them down all with hard explosive blasts of flame, and beaten down in the depths, the floating locusts huddle. So at Achilles' charge, the Xanthus' swirling currents choked with a spate of horse and men. The river roared. So half the army, because they see Achilles, runs into the river rather than Achilles.
Did they just die?
Not yet. And Achilles won't let them get away.
Jesus Christ. It's like, you're drowning? Nah, not on my watch.
You're not dying fast enough.
Okay.
And the god-sprung hero, Achilles, left his spear on the bank, propped up on the tamarisks, and in he leapt into the river like a frenzied god, his heart racing with slaughter, only his sword in hand. Whirling in circles, slashing, hideous groans, breaking, fighters stabbed by the blade, water flushed with blood, like shoals of fish darting before some big-bellied dolphin, escaping, cramming the coves of a good deep-water harbor. Terrified for their lives, he devours all he catches. So the Trojans down that terrible river's onrush cowered under its bluffs. But soon as Achilles grew arm-weary from killing 12 young Trojans, he rounded up from the river, took them all alive as the blood price for Patroclus's death. So he said once that for Patroclus's burial mound, he would sacrifice 12 Trojan boys. So he's got the 12 and he's got that ready.
He's got the boys. He's got the boys.
He dragged those boys up on the banks, dazed like fawns, lashed their hands behind them with well-cut straps, their own belts that cinched their bellowing war shirts, gave them to friends to lead away to the beaked ships, and back he whirled, insane to hack more flesh.
Jesus Christ. He just dumped these boys and I was like, all right, let's keep killing.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And first he met a son of Dardan Priam, just escaping the rapids. Lycaon, the very man Achilles seized himself once on a midnight raid and hauled from his father's orchard, resisting all the way. Now we get a story about how Achilles first met this son of Priam. He was pruning a young fig with his sharp bronze hook, cutting green branches to bend for chariot rails, when a sudden blow came down on him in the dark, the grim marauder Achilles. That was the time he shipped him to Lemnos' fortress, sold him off, and the son of Jason paid the price for the slave. But a stranger there released him from his chains. Eaton out of Imbros paid a princely ransom and sent him off to Eurystheus' shining walls. From there he slipped away to his father's house, struggling home from Lemnos. But only 11 days he cheered his heart with friends. Then on the 12th some god cast him into Achilles' hands again, and now he would send him off on a new journey, resisting all the way to the house of death. The swift runner recognized him at once, disarmed, no shield, no helmet, no spear left. He'd scattered all his gear on the bank of the river, sweating, clambering out of the ford, exhausted, knees buckling. So Achilles had met this man before, sold him into slavery. He just managed to get back home. 11 days later, he joined the war, and Achilles has him in his clutches again.
It's like, oh my God. Poor man.
So Achilles sees him, recognizes him, and filled with rage, addressed his own heart.
I have an awesome miracle right before my eyes. Oh no. These gallant, die-hard Trojans, even those I've killed, they'll all come rising back from the western gloom. Look at this fellow here. Back he comes again, fleeing his fatal day, dude. And that's just so rough. And I sold him off as a slave in holy Lemnos. But the heaving gray salt sea can't hold him back, though it stops whole fleets of men who buck its tides. Let's try again. This time he'll taste my spear point. Now we'll see. Once and for all we'll know if he returns as fast from his newest destination, or the firm, life-giving earth can hold him down, the grave that hugged the strongest man alive.
Waiting, plodding, the other stumbling toward him, stunned, wild to grasp his knees, wild with all his heart to escape his death and grueling black fate, as the great Achilles raised his massive spear, wild to run him through. He ducked, ran under the hurl, and seized Achilles' knees as the spear shot past his back and stuck in the earth, still starved for human flesh. And begging now, one hand clutching Achilles' knees, the other gripping the spear, holding for dear life, Lycaon burst out with a winging prayer.
Achilles! I hug your knees. Mercy! Spare my life. What? Yes.
I hug your knees.
I am your suppliant prince. You must respect me. Yours was the first bread I broke, Demeter's gift. That day you seized me in Priam's well-fenced orchard, hauled me away from father, loved ones, sold me off in holy Lemnos, and I fetched you 100 bulls, and once released, I brought 3 times that price. And it's just 12 days that I've been home in Troy, and all I've suffered. But now, again, some murderous fate has placed me in your hands, your prisoner twice over. Father Zeus must hate me, giving me back to you. To a short life you bore me, mother. Mother, she was Louthaway.
Nice.
Aged Altus's daughter. Altus, who ruled the Leleges.
Leleges.
Always keen for war, who holds the Pedasus Heights along the
They misspelled though.
Sat.
Dude, that sounds like a disease.
Oh my
Can't
gosh.
sit down. Sat neoice.
And Priam wed his daughter with many other wives, and she produced 2 sons, and you'll butcher both. One you killed in the ranks of frontline fighters, noble Polydorus, ran him down with your lance, and a gruesome death awaits me here and now. No hope of escape for me from your clutches, not while destiny drives me up against you. Listen, this too, take it to heart, I beg you. Don't kill me. I don't know why he thinks it's going to work at this point, but I'm not from the same womb as Hector who killed your friend, your strong, gentle friend.
He's like, please be gentle to me.
Yeah, please.
Will you be sweet to me?
Here's my monologue. Please don't kill me.
Actually, like when he's like, "Oh, you're finally here. Let me kill you again." It's like, "Oh, how about you don't?"
Yeah.
Not making a strong argument here, bro.
Right.
But wait, I have a question. When was this guy mentioned earlier in the story?
I don't know if this guy was mentioned in the Iliad before. His brother Polydorus was killed, I think, in the last chapter by Achilles. He was sold into slavery before, like, the Trojan War proper started. On their way to Troy, they sacked a bunch of smaller cities.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's like another way of Homer humanizing Achilles' endless murder.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is an anti-war novel. So like
so far it looks pretty sick to me, to be honest. It looks pretty awesome.
After everyone dies, like before anyone dies, we get their life story. So it's like these aren't just like Nazis in a video game. It's like these are real people who have backstories and parents who are going to cry over their deaths. And
right. That's actually a really good comparison, Nazis in a video game versus the Iliad.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Like, but I gotta say, so far it's been like really anime level.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's very too bad. Like their family's dead now. They only had 2 sons, so their family name is gone. Achilles has killed a whole family in his revenge. So that's not cool. But
that's not cool.
That's life, I guess.
Yeah, coolest of Trojans is not cool.
So the illustrious son of Priam begged for life, but only heard a merciless voice in answer from Achilles.
Oh, sorry. Fool! Don't talk to me of ransom. No more speeches. Before Patroclus met his day of destiny. True, it warmed my heart a bit to spare some Trojans. Droves I took alive and auctioned off as slaves. But now not a single Trojan flees his death. Not one the gods hand over to me before your gates. None of all the Trojans, sons of Priam least of all. Come, friend, you too must die. Why moan about it so? Even Patroclus died, a far, far better man than you. And look, you see how handsome and powerful I am? The son of a great man, the mother who gave me life, a deathless goddess. But even for me, I tell you, death and the strong force of fate are waiting. There will come a dawn or sunset or high noon when a man will take my life in battle too, flinging a spear perhaps, or whipping a deadly arrow off his bow. Arrow. Bow.
What?
Foreshadowing.
Oh.
Foreshadowing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yup.
Yup.
Yup. So, like we said before, Achilles is totally cool with dying right now.
That's pretty sick.
He wants to avenge Patroclus' death. Once he kills Hector, who cares? That's all he wants right now. That will twist a little bit near the end of the story, but right now that's all he cares about. So, no, his appeal of please don't kill me did not work. At that, Lycaon's knees gave way on the spot, his heart too. He let go of the spear. He sank back down, spreading both arms wide. Drawing his sharp sword, Achilles struck his collarbone just beside the neck, and the two-edged blade drove home, plunging to the hilt, and down on the ground he sprawled, stretched face first, and dark blood pouring out of him drenched the earth. Achilles grabbed a foot, slung him into the river, washed away downstream as he cried above him savage words to win him on his way.
Achilles grabbed the okay. There, lie there. Make your bed with the fishes now. Is this the first reference to sleep with the fishes?
That's a good question.
That's sick. Achilles original gangster. They'll dress your wound and lick it clean of blood. So much for your last rites. Nor will your mother lay your corpse on a bier. I
think it's Bear.
Oh.
I don't know.
Bier. All right, Bier. And mourn her darling son. Whirling Scamander will roll you down the sea's broad bosom. And many a fish, leaping up through the waves, breaking the cold ripples, shivering dark, will dart and bold Lycaon's glistening fat. Oh. Die, Trojans, die, till I butcher all the way to sacred Troy. Run headlong on. I'll hack you from behind. Nothing can save you now. Not even your silver whirling, mighty tiding river. Not for all the bulls you slaughtered to it for many years. Oh, the rearing stallions drowned alive in its eddies. Die! Even so, writhing in death till all your Trojans pay for Patroclus' blood and the carnage of Achilles killed by the racing ships when I was out of action.
The more he vaunted, the more the river's anger rose, turning at heart for a way to halt his rampage, godlike Achilles, and stop the Trojans' rout. But now Pelides, Achilles, shaking his long-shadowed spear, was charging Asteropaeus, mad to cut him down. Pelagon's son, himself a son of the Axius River, broad and fast, and Acessamenus' eldest daughter, Paraboea, loved by the deep swirling stream.
Why did you just read that? Sorry. Okay, go on, sorry.
Achilles went for Asteropaeus fresh from the ford, braced to face him then and there, brandishing two spears, and the Xanthus filled the Trojan's heart with courage. The river seething for all the youths Achilles slaughtered, chopped to bits in its tide without a twinge of pity. So the river, right before we get into this bit, is called Xanthus and Scamander. It has two names. It's the same river. All the rivers in the Iliad, in Greek mythology, have a god tied to them.
Sick.
So this one is going to get mad, and it personifies the river. So
that's really cool, actually.
It's super mad, not only because it's getting filled with blood and bodies and horses and stuff, but it's the river of Troy. So it gives water to the whole city of Troy. It loves Troy. And like the
now
Trojans,
it's just trashed.
Yeah, like the Trojans honor the river god as well. So it's like shit. Like all my supporters are now dead in me.
All my supporters are dead. My water's black.
Yeah. He has reason to be angry. So it's very mad at Achilles, closing against each other, just about in range. The magnificent runner Achilles.
Achilles the river. Who on earth are you? Where do you hail from? You with the gall to go against my onslaught. Pity the ones whose sons stand up to me in war. So
he's talking to Asteropaeus.
How do you just read these? At this point, just showing up. How do you read this goddamn name? Sorry.
But the noble son of Pelagon answered firmly.
High-hearted son of Peleus, why ask about my birth? I hail from Paeonia's rich soil, a far cry from here, heading Paeonia troops with their long spears, and this my 11th day since raising Troy. My birth? I come from the Axius' broad currents. Axius floods the land with the clearest stream on earth, and Axius fathered the famous spearman Pelagon. Men say I am his son. Now on with it, great Pleiades. Let us fight.
Now, he skipped the monologue for the most part, and
Yeah.
see how that gets him. Menacing so, as brilliant Achilles raised the Pylian ash spear, but the fighting Asclepius, quick, ambidextrous, hurled both.
As a matter of fact,
Oh,
he
no.
can use both his hands.
He hurled both spears at once.
Sorry. This is unnecessary point.
No, you can throw
It's
two.
not, because they throw both spears.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not ambidextrous. I can probably throw both spears. Not well, but okay.
Well,
It's just such a weird flex. Like, oh, I'm ambidextrous. Cool. I can write with both hands.
The odds were that there would be at least one in this story.
That's such a good point. Yes, that's such a good point.
you know,
Sorry.
okay, this is why Colin ought to be here, because he could stand up for himself and his ambidextrous.
Oh. Wait, Colin's ambidextrous now?
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, I didn't know that. I remember he was like working on it. Oh, I see him, bro. Dude, Colin is represented the Iliad. See, Iliad has all its beautiful liberal dream.
What?
All kinds of people are represented in the Iliad. It's beautiful. It's everyone living together. I guess everyone killing each other, but maybe I'm gonna shut up. I'm not making a point.
Everyone living together in war.
Everyone living together. I guess this is the liberal future, liberal ones.
Everyone's well represented except for empowered women.
Oh, actually, yeah. Wait, who's the strongest woman here? Hera. But Hera's playing Zeus. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, like in this war so far, hasn't been like a significant female character that's not a god.
Helen.
Yeah, I mean, there's Helen, but she's a
Oh.
bitch and a whore.
Wow. Not empowered. Not empowered by Homer. Not empowered by us.
Oh
like,
my god.
I mean, that was her words, not mine.
Not empowered by herself.
Oh my god, dude. Wait, we need to make merch. Our first merch, except for Helen, because she's a bitch and a whore. I want that on a shirt.
I don't want that on a shirt.
I don't believe that she's a bitch and a whore, but she does, and that's what matters.
I like that.
Something being like a positive help for Helen. Like Helen needs therapy.
Oh.
Like better
Therapy for Helen.
Therapy for Helen.
Put that on a shirt.
Oh, bro, what if? So I'm a therapist. What if we had a new series where I just act as therapist to different characters? I can't.
That's a hot idea.
Therapist. I could be Hamlet's therapist.
Yes.
Dude, yes.
Therapist.
Yes.
Dude, okay, we're gonna role play, and like the person can only speak in the monologues, especially in the Iliad, and you have to analyze these monologues.
I think this is cool.
I like this. Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of mental health has to do with not having a supportive society around you, and that's mostly Helen's deal in this book.
Dude, let's break down the Iliad, man. Everyone just wanted a shoulder to cry on, but then they had war.
This is cool. I mean, like if we take just to be or not to be, it's Hamlet's monologue of like, why should I bother not killing myself?
Classic, right?
The only reason I should not kill myself is because I'm afraid of what will happen if I die.
Classics and counseling.
Classics and counseling.
Candidate for motivational interviewing, because he has a lot of reasons and he knows them, and he kind of already is talking himself into not dying. But
right, absolutely. Dude, I like this idea. It's good. Especially Macbeth needs quite a lot of therapy.
And his wife.
His wife.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh man.
Some OCD.
There's a theory that she's just suffering from quite a bit of postpartum depression, and also like the fact that her infant son probably died.
I see.
There's like versions where Lady Macbeth is pregnant,
Oh.
And so the whole time she's like, we have to get the throne so that our child can be king. But she's like trying to make it up because her first child died. And so she has got like all this like pressure on her. And she's like, I want this child to have a really good life because my last one died. And I like.
That really humanizes her.
Yeah.
The only thing that might make me safe is royalty.
Royalty. Well, I gotta say, in the version that we read, she seemed kind of just manic. That version I like a lot better.
Yeah.
Is that like a strict rewriting, or was that actually intended?
The one that I saw where she was pregnant, they literally just put a pregnant suit on her and didn't mention it. But like just seeing her pregnant, you're like, oh wow, like that's why she's doing all of this, like because she wants what's best for her kid, and like it makes her emotional manic moments make a little bit more sense because it's like, well, she's pregnant, you know.
Interesting. So she actually like her whole dialogues, everything she says is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But in the play, oh, that's brilliant. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it gives Macbeth motivation because like the whole time you're reading it, you're like, why doesn't he just wait? Like Duncan's gonna die at some point, and then you're like, oh, like because he wants it so that his son can be like certain and whatever. It's just like it really changes the whole thing.
That's phenomenal. That's cool.
We're not reading Macbeth right now.
Yeah, going back to murder.
Oh yeah, back to Achilles.
Back to killing the river.
But yeah, I think that's a cool idea. We can.
Nice.
Sure.
Pro.
So he's ambidextrous.
How did this start this conversation?
That's his mental illness. He's ambidextrous. Also about to die. That's true.
Oh.
Yeah,
oh.
So he hurled both spears at once. One shaft hit Achilles' shield. No breakthrough. The shaft could not smash through. The gold blocked it. Forged in the god's hand. But the other grazed Achilles' strong right arm, and dark blood gushed as the spear shot past his back, stabbing the earth hard, still lusting to sink in flesh. But next, Achilles, burning to cut down Asteropaeus, hurled his ashen shaft. It flew straight as a die, but a clean miss. It struck the river's high bank, and half the length of the lance stuck deep in the soil. So Achilles, drawing the sharp sword at his hip, sprang at the man in rage as he tried to wrench Pelides' spear from the bank, but his grip failed. 3 times he tried to wrench Achilles' spear free, tugging madly. Thrice gave up the struggle. The 4th, with all his might, he fought to bend Achilles' shaft and break it off, but before it budged, the hero was all over him, slashing out his life, slitting his belly open. A slice at the navel, and all his bowels spilled out on the ground. Darkness swirled his eyes as he gasped his breath away. And trampling his chest, Achilles tore his gear off, glorying over him now.
Lie there with the dead. Oh shit. Punishing work, you see, to fight the sons of invincible Cronus' son, even sprung from a river as you are. You claimed your birth from a river's broad stream, while I can boast my birth from powerful Zeus himself. Oh, got him. My father's the man who rules the hordes of Myrmidons, Peleus, son of Aeacus. And Aeacus sprang from Zeus, and as Zeus is stronger than rivers surging out to sea, so the breed of Zeus is stronger than any streams. Here is a great river flowing past you. Look. What help can he give you? None. Nothing can fight the son of Cronus, Zeus. Not even Achilles, king of rivers, bees with Zeus. Not even the overpowering ocean's huge high tides, the source of all the rivers and all the seas on earth, and all springs and all deep wells, all flow from the ocean. But even the ocean shrinks from the mighty Father's bolt when terrible thunder crashes down the skies.
So he's just like, this river can't help you. This river can't do anything. This river is weak and stupid and hateful.
This river sucks.
That's not going to go over too well.
But I have a question. The O in oceans capitalized, is that a reference to Poseidon?
the ocean itself, and I have to fact check this again, is a god.
And Poseidon just chills in it.
Yeah, Poseidon, the ocean's a god. So, like, you know, you've heard of Gaia. There's a god called Gaia. So she is the earth. Like,
I heard she's a nice guy. Yeah.
Wow.
So her body is the earth. So Ocean's body, Oceanus, is the ocean.
Oceanus is the ocean. Gaia is the earth. Poseidon is in Oceanus.
Yeah, he like controls the stuff in the ocean, keeps it in order. Moves
so Poseidon is basically the housekeeper of Oceanus.
Yeah.
Pretty hard. That puts a lot of perspective. I like that. Just clean the house. I like it.
So with that, Achilles pulled his bronze spear from the river bluff and left him there. The Trojan's life slashed out, sprawled in the sand, drenched by the black tide. Eels and fish, the corpse's frenzied attendants, ripping into him, nibbling kidney fat away. But Achilles went for Paeonians, helmets plumed, still running in panic along the river's rapids, once they saw their finest fall in onslaught, beaten down by Pelides' hands and hacking sword. Achilles killed in a blur of kills.
Oh.
Thersilochus, Mydon, Astapilus, Nisus, Thracius, Aeneas, and Ophelestes, still more Paeonian men the runner would have killed if the swirling river had not risen, crying out in a fury, taking a man's shape, its voice breaking out of a whirlpool.
Stop, Achilles, greater than any man on earth, greater in outrage too, for the gods themselves are always at your side. But if Zeus allows you to kill off all the Trojans, drive them out of my depths at least, I ask you, out of the plain, and do your butchery there, out on the plain. All my lovely rapids are crammed with corpses now, no channel in sight to sweep my currents out to sacred sea. I'm choked with corpses, and still you slaughter more. You blot out more. Leave me alone. Have done. Captain of armies, I am filled with horror.
Oh.
That section is very Poe-like, which is a good foreshadowing also.
Poe-like?
It's a lot like Edgar Allan Poe's writing.
Wait, can you explain that? Because I haven't read it.
It's just very like horrific.
Oh, I see.
Like a person being choked by corpses and full of horror and
like very vivid, horrendous imagery.
Yeah, imagery. Yeah, huge on imagery.
I see. Just kind of also filled with pity.
Yeah.
Poe sounds fun.
It is. Can't wait. Achilles only paused to answer.
So be it. Scamander sprung on Zeus as you command. But I won't stop killing these overweening Trojans. Not till I pack them in their walls and tested Hector. Strength against strength. He kills me or I kill him.
So Achilles agrees. He's like, okay. Then the river, as Achilles is walking away, the river decides to insult him behind his back. Even out of earshot.
Oh my god.
Okay. So down on the Trojan front, Achilles swept like something superhuman, and now from his deep whirls, the river roared to Phoebus Apollo.
Disgrace, god of the silver bow and born of Zeus, you throw to the winds the will of Cronus' son. Time and again Zeus gave you strict commands. Stand by the Trojan ranks and save their lives, till the sun goes down at last and darkness shrouds the plow lands ripe with grain.
Just as Achilles agrees and is about to leave the river alone, the river is like, Apollo, can you please like take care of that? And Achilles is like, what?
What'd you say that? Yo, say it again.
When he
Disgrace.
Yo,
did great.
oh, that's good.
When he heard that, Achilles, the famous spearman, leaping down from the bluff, plunged in the river's heart, and the river charged against him, churning, surging, all his rapids rising in white fury, and drove the mass of corpses choking tight his channel. The ruck Achilles killed. Scamander heaved up these corpses, and bellowing like a bull, the river flung them out on the dry land, but saved the living, hiding them down the fresh, clear pools of his thundering, whirling current. But thrashing over Achilles' shoulders raised a killer wave. The tremendous thrust of it slammed against his shield, and he staggered, lost his footing, his arms flung out for a tall, strong elm. So he reaches and he grabs this elm tree. He clung it, but out it came by the roots, toppling down, ripping away the whole cliff, blocking the stream with a tangled snarl of branches, crashing it into full length to dam the river bank to bank.
Oh, man.
Bursting up from a whirlpool, Achilles dashed for the plain, so he makes it out of the river, his feet flying in terror, but the great god would not let up. Hurling against him, the river Scamander looming into a murderous breaker, dark over him, dead set on stopping the brilliant Achilles' rampage here and thrusting disaster off the struggling Trojan force. The hero sprang away, far as a hard-flung spear, swooping fast as the black eagle, the fierce marauder, both the strongest and swiftest bird that flies the sky. On he streaked, and the bronze rang out against his chest, clashing grimly. Slipping out from under the wave, he fled, with the river rolling on behind him, roaring, huge. So he's running, and the river is chasing him over the battlefield. As a farmhand runs a ditch from dark springs, sluicing the gushing stream through plants and gardens, swinging his mattock to knock the clods out down the chute, and the water rushes on, tearing the pebbles loose with what began as a trickle, hits a quick slope, and down it goes, outstripping the man who guides it. So the relentless tide kept overtaking Achilles, yes, for all his speed, as gods are stronger than men. Again and again, the brilliant, swift Achilles whirled, trying to stand and fight the river man to man, and see if all the immortal gods who rule the vaulting skies were after him, putting him to rout again and again. The mighty crest of the river, fed by the rains of Zeus, kept battering down his shoulders, down from high above. But Achilles kept on leaping higher, desperate now, as the river kept on dragging down his knees, lunging under him, cutting the ground from under his legs. Achilles groaned, scanning the arching blank sky.
Father Zeus, to think in all my misery, not one god can bring himself to rescue me from this river. The tables have turned. That I'd face any fate, and no god on high. None is to blame so much as my dear mother. How she lied. She beguiled me. She promised me I'd die beneath the walls of the armored Trojans, cut down in blood by Apollo's whipping arrows. I wish Hector had killed me, the best man bred in Troy. The killer a hero then, and a hero too, the man whose corpse he stripped. Now look what a wretched death I'm doomed to suffer, trapped in this monstrous river like some pig boy swept away, trying to ford a winter torrent in a storm.
Yeah. So he mentions here that he mentions here that he's going to be killed by Apollo's arrows. We know that Paris is the one who shoots and kills Achilles, but in almost every version of that myth, Apollo is the one who carries the arrow to its mark. So Paris shoots it, Apollo guides it. So really, Apollo killed Achilles.
That's hot.
Spoiler.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it does.
I'm so much cooler with Apollo killing Achilles than that one.
Yeah, he who should not be named. All right, so he begs the gods to save him, and don't worry, they do. Quick to his cry, Poseidon and Pallas Athena moved in close, stood at his shoulder now, and taking human form, grasped him hand to hand, spoke bracing words. Poseidon, who shakes the mainland, first to say,
"Courage, Achilles. Why such fear, such terror? Not with a pair like us to urge you on, gods in arms, sent down with Zeus's blessings. I and Pallas Athena, It's not your fate to be swallowed by a river. He'll subside. You'll see for yourself, but we do have sound advice if only you will yield. Never rest your hands from the great leveler war, not till you pack and cram the Trojan army safe in the famous walls of Troy. Whoever flees your onset. But once you've ripped away Prince Hector's life, back to the ships you go. We'll give you glory. Seize it in your hands.
With that challenge, both went soaring home to the deathless gods on high. But Achilles rampaged on with the gods' strong command, driving him down the plain where the river flooded now, an immense crusting outrush bursting with burnished gear and the troops of battle dead, men cut down in their prime. Floating corpses rolling, but Achilles surged on too, with high hurtling strides, charging against the river, on, breakneck on. The river could not stop him, not for all its reach and tide race, not with Athena pumping enormous strength deep down Achilles' heart. But the Xanthus River would not slack his fury either. He raged at Achilles all the more. He marshaled up a mountainous ridge of water, roaring out to Simois. So the river.
This is the river, yeah, okay. Oh, dear brother, rise. Both of us rush together to halt this mortal's onslaught. At any moment, he'll storm King Priam's mighty stronghold down. The Trojans can't stand up to that man in battle. Beat him back, quickly. Deluge all your channels from all your gushing springs. Muster all your torrents. Rise up, a tremendous wave, rumbling, booming with timber, boulders crashing, will stop this wild man in his tracks, lording it in his power now and raging like some god. Neither his strength nor splendid build can save him, not now, I tell you, nor all that glorious armor. Now somewhere under our floods that gear will sink, immersed deep in slime, and I'll roil his body round in sand and gravel, tons of spills of silt. Achaeans will never know where to find his bones, never collect them now. I'll bury that man so deep in mud and rocks, that's where his grave mound will be piled, and then no need in the world to raise his barrow high when comrades come to give him royal rights.
So he vaunted, rearing against Achilles, seething and heaving up in fury, thundering out now in foam and blood and corpses. The blood-red crest of the river, swelled by Zeus, came arching higher, ready to tear Pelides down. Your shirt is applicable, Marat, with your wave of blood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Topical. Foreshadowing.
But Hera, here she is, struck with fear for Achilles, screamed out, dreading he might be swept away by the great churning river, and quickly cried to the god of fire, Hephaestus, her own son.
Arms, my child, god of the crooked legs. You are the one we thought a worthy match for the whirling river Xanthus. Quick, rescue Achilles. Explode in a burst of fire. I'll drive the west and south winds white with clouds and sweep in from the open seas a tearing gale to sear the Trojan bodies and gear and spread your lethal flames. And you make for the Xanthus banks and burn the trees. Hurl the stream itself into conflagration. Not for a moment let him turn you back with his winning words or threats. Never abate your fury, not till I loose my shout, then halt your withering fire.
Hera's command, and Hephaestus launched his grim, inhuman blaze. First he shot into flames and burned the plain, ignited hordes of corpses, squads Achilles had slaughtered. He scorched the whole plain, and the shining river shrank. Hard as the autumn north wind hits a leveled field just drenched in a downpour, quickly dries it off and the farmer is glad and starts to till his soil, so the whole plain was parched, and the god of fire devoured all the dead. Then blazing in all his glory, he veered for the river, an inferno. The elms burned, the willows and the tamarisks burned, and the lotus burned, and the galingale and the reeds and the rushes, all that flourished along the running river's lush banks. And the eels writhed, and the fish in the whirlpools leapt high, breaking the surface left and right in the sheen of fire. grasping under the master smith Hephaestus's blast, and now the river's strength was burning out. He panted the god's name.
Hephaestus, stop! Not a single god can stand against you. No, not I. Can't fight such fire, such fury. Hold your attack. Stop. Brilliant Achilles can drive them out of Ilium now. What's this war to me? Why should I help Troy?
10 minutes and he doesn't care anymore.
I was gonna say, oh, now I'm dying? Actually, screw Troy.
He screamed in flames, his clear current bubbling up like a cauldron whipped by crackling fire as it melts down the lard of a fat swine, splattering up around the rim, dry logs blazing under it, lashing it to the boil. So the river burned. His clear current seethed and lost all will to flow. He stopped, overwhelmed by the torrid blast of the master craftsman god of fire, and Xanthus cried out to Hera, pouring out his heart in a flood of supplication.
That's also the river. Oh, Hera! Why? Why does your son attack me, whip my waters more than all the others? Why? What have I done to you? Nothing beside those other powers, all who rushed to defend the Trojan armies. Oh, I'll stop, if that is your command, but let your son stop too. I'll swear, what's more, never to drive the fatal day away from the Trojans, not even when all Troy burns in the ramping fires, when the warring sons of Achaea burn her down.
And Hera heard him, the radiant white-armed goddess, quickly cried to the god of fire, her own dear son.
Justice, stop. Stop, my glorious blazing boy. It's not right to batter another deathless god, not for the sake of these mortals.
I think we should call our fans glorious blazing boys.
Our glorious blazing boy. Glorious blazing boy. Tommy, glorious blazing girls. But I have a question. So Hera was like, burn it down. And now Hera's like, oh, actually don't.
She was torturing him.
Oh, that was the intention. I see.
Yeah. The river decided, he's like, all right, I won't hurt Achilles anymore. And she's like, no.
Cool. All right, my blazing boy.
Come here, my blazing boy.
Come here, my blazing boy. Ooh, good old Heffy.
So she ceased, and the god of fire quenched his grim, inhuman blaze, and back in its channel ran the river's glistening tides. And now, with the strength of the Xanthus beaten down, the two, the river and Achilles, called off their battle. Hera held them back, still enraged as she was, but now for total war. Bearing down on the other gods, disastrous, massive, their fighting fury blasting loose from opposing camps, the powers collided. So suddenly the gods decide it's time to start fighting.
Cool.
A mammoth clash, the wide earth roared, and the arching vault of heaven echoed round with trumpets. And Zeus heard the chaos, throned on Olympus heights, and laughed deep in his own great heart, delighted to see the gods engage in all-out conflict. They did not waste a moment, closed at once. Ares, stabber of shields, led off, charging at Athena, shaking his brazen spear, and dressed the goddess down. This is Ares. He's going to bring up the time that Athena told Diomedes to attack Ares, which is still a sore spot.
You dogfly! Why drive the gods to battle once again with that stormy bluster driving your wild heart? Don't you recall the time you drove Tydeus' son to spear me through? In the eyes of all the world, you seized his lance and rammed it home yourself, tearing into my rippling, deathless flesh. So now, I think I'll pay you back for all your outrage.
With that, he stabbed at her battle shield of storm, its dark tassels flaring, packing tremendous force. Not even Zeus's lightning bolt can break its front. Bloody Ares lunged at it now with a giant lance, and Athena backed away, her powerful hand hefting a boulder off the plain. Black, jagged, a ton of weight that men in the old days planted there to mark off plowland. Pallas Athena hurled that boundary stone at Ares, struck his neck, loosed his limbs, and down he crashed, and out over 7 acres sprawled the enormous god, and his mane dragged in the dust, his armor clashed around him. So he's 7 acres tall at this moment.
And no one's noticing this. There's a 7-acre tall man. All right, no, don't you mind it. Keep going about your business.
It's weird. It seems like so they can change their size and what they look like and everything. And it also seems like a lot of the time they're just disguised from humans. Like they're on a different dimension. But yeah, so that's what's going on now. So she was just like LOL and then threw a rock at him and he fell, collapsed. Athena laughed aloud, LOL, glorying over him, and sent
the first LOL.
Philosophical. It never even occurred to you, not even now, when you matched your strength with mine, just how much greater I claim to be than you. So now you feel the weight of your mother's curses. Hera plotted against you, Hera up in arms because you left the Achaean forces in the lurch and rushed to defend those reckless, headlong Trojans.
Triumphant Athena turned her shining eyes away, and Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, took Ares' hand and led him off the field, racked with groans, barely able to gather back his strength. But the white-armed Hera saw her move at once and winged Athena on.
I think that's me too. I'll talk to myself.
Yay!
Just look at them there, daughter of Zeus, whose shield is storm and thunder. Tireless one, Athena. There she goes again, that dogfly, leading her man, destroying Ares clear of the rampage through the slaughter. After her, quick!
Athena's heart leapt high. She charged at Aphrodite, overtook her, and beat her breasts with clenched fists. Down she... Down she sank with Ares, resistance quite dissolved. 2 immortals spread on the earth that rears us all, with Pallas Athena trumpeting over them winged exaltations.
Down you go. May all the gods who help the Trojans fall as hard when they battle Argives armed for war. All as courageous, all as steadfast as Aphrodite when she sped to Ares' side and faced my fury. Then we'd have done with fighting long ago, razed the rugged walls of Troy and laid her waste.
So Athena vaunted, and white-armed Hera smiled. But the mighty god of earthquakes, Poseidon, challenged Phoebus Apollo.
We haven't had Poseidon yet.
You didn't?
No, hang on,
Did we?
calling.
I'm asking.
Oh, I forgot. Apollo!
Oh.
Why hold back from each other? It's not fair. When the other gods have launched themselves in war, what disgrace for us to return without a fight to the bronze-floored house of Zeus of Mount Olympus. You lead all, you let off. You are the younger born, and it's wrong for me, since I have years on you, and I know the world much better. Fool, what short-lived memory you must have. Don't you remember? Have you forgotten? Even now, all those troubles we suffered here alongside Troy. We alone of the gods, when Zeus dispatched us down to slave for proud Laomedon 1 whole year for stated wages. At that man's beck and call. I erected the rampart around the Trojans' city. A massive ashlar wool wall to make the place impregnable. You, Phoebus, herded his shambling crookhorn cattle along the spurs of Ida's timbered ridges. But then, when the happy spring brought time for payment around, that outrageous man, Laomedon, robbed us blind. He stole our wages, cursed us, sent us packing. He threatened to bind us both, hand and foot, ship us off, and away as slaves to distant lands. He was all for lopping off our ears, with a brazen axe. So we made our way back home, heart smoldering, furious for the sum he swore but never paid, and that is whose men you favor. That is the one whose men you favor now. No joining ranks with us as we fight to wipe them out. These insolent Trojans, stretch them out in the dust with all their sons and all their honored wives.
But the distant deadly archer, Apollo, volleyed back.
God of the earthquake, you'd think me hardly sane if I fought with you for the sake of wretched mortals, like leaves, no sooner flourishing, full of the sun's fire, feeding on the earth's gifts, than they waste away and die. Stop, call off this skirmish of ours at once. Let these mortals fight themselves to death.
Yeah, so mortals die so quickly, who cares? Like, this is silly, getting so tied up in a war that's so brief in our lives.
Like, every person I read in this chapter is like, stop this fighting.
We're all tired. We're bored of it by now.
Yeah.
All the pacifist characters in the war.
Yeah, we're just all the top gods besides Zeus. Actually, is Zeus the only one? Sorry. So, at this point, is Zeus the only one that wants this war to happen?
Zeus doesn't want it to happen.
Oh, but he's kind of just like stirring the pot because he's bored?
Zeus is not really involved right now. The Trojans, he was helping Thetis because she asked him to help for Achilles. He's not gotten involved much beyond having what he had to do for her. The gods get all petty because of Aphrodite, basically. She's kind of to blame for a lot of this. So Ares is fighting with Aphrodite because he's in love with her. Hera and Athena got in a fight with Aphrodite, so they're against her. It's just like their own petty bullshit that's getting them involved. But Zeus is kind of above it all at the moment.
I see. So literally no one's invested in this war anymore.
I mean, like Helen, like no one really cares about Helen anymore. Or, like, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean it's like any war. Like it just gets complicated and everyone gets involved for no reason. And
I see.
Yeah.
Now they're just like questioning their own involvement at this point.
Pretty much.
Cool.
If I knew more about like history, I could give you a real world example. But I mean, like with the Vietnam War, like at some point, America was like, "Why are we even here? Like, what are we doing with this?"
All right, this got old. This was kind of exciting for a minute, but now we're losing.
And it's like, oh, like because we're mad at Russia, but like Russia isn't even here, and like, is this even doing what we're supposed to be doing, and whatever.
That's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. But anyway, so Apollo is like, let's not fight, and then just kind of walks away. After Poseidon's big speech, he's like, let us fight and see who's the bigger man. And Apollo was like, nah.
No, thanks. Cool. Pretty sick.
With that, he turned and left, filled with shame to grapple his own father's brother hand to hand. But his sister, Artemis, the huntress, the queen of beasts, inweighed against him now with stinging insults.
So, the deadly immortal archer runs for dear life, turning over victory to Poseidon, total victory, giving him all the glory here without a fight. Why do you sport that bow, you spineless fool? It's worthless as the wind. Don't let me hear you boast in father's halls ever again, as you bragged among the gods till now, that you would fight Poseidon strength for strength.
So Hera takes personal offense to this, which is a little confusing to me.
What?
Because Hera's not.
Y'all are not fighting? I'm offended.
Yeah.
So I took that personally.
I guess basically it's because Artemis is against her. Like Artemis is with the Trojans. She's only with the Trojans because Apollo is the patron god of Troy. So Apollo loves Troy, and Artemis is his twin sister. But anyway, she like is like, Apollo, you're terrible, and Hera gets super mad. Not a word in reply to that from the archer god, but Zeus's royal consort, Hera, flew into rage at once, and her outburst raked the huntress armed with arrows.
How do you have the gall, you shameless bitch, to stand and fight here? You and your archery. Zeus made you a lion against all women, true. He lets you kill off mothers in their labor, but you'll find it painful matching force with me. Better to slaughter beasts on rocky mountain slopes and young deer in the wild than fight a higher goddess. But since you'd like a lesson in warfare, Artemis, just to learn, to savor how much stronger I am when you engage my power.
So Hera breaks off, her left hand seizing both wrists of the goddess, her right hand stripping the bow and quiver off her shoulders. Hera boxed the huntress's ears with her own weapons. She just smacks Artemis with bow and quiver of arrows.
Slaps her.
Smiling broadly now as her victim writhed away and her showering arrows scattered. Bursting into tears, Goddess Artemis slipped from under her clutch like a wild dove that flies from a hawk's attack to a hollow rocky cleft, for it's not the quarry destined to be caught. So she fled in tears, her archery left on the spot. But Hermes, who's here,
who's been here the whole time, quiet in the corner.
I guess.
That's so cute.
The guide of souls and the giant killer, reassured Artemis's mother, Leto. Nothing to fear. I guess I'll be him. Nothing to fear. I'll never fight you, Leto. An uphill battle as it is, trading blows with the wives of Zeus who rules the clouds. Now, no. Go boast to your heart's content and tell the gods that you triumphed over me with your superhuman power. So Leto, who was, I guess, about to fight Hermes, stops.
On the side this happens, no one cares.
So she stops fighting him. She goes and she gathers Artemis's reflex bow and arrows, scattered left and right in the swirling dust, and bearing her daughter's archery in her arms, withdrew from the field of battle, trailing Artemis. By now the huntress had reached Olympus heights and made her way to the bronze-floored house of Zeus, and down she sat on her father's lap, a young girl, sobbing, her deathless robe quivering around her body. But her father, Zeus, son of Cronos, hugged her tight, and giving a low, warm laugh, inquired gently,
Ha ha ha, who has abused you now, dear child? Tell me, who of the sons of heaven, so unfeeling, cruel? Why, it's as if they had caught you in public doing something wrong.
Wreathed in flowers, the one who halloos the hunt cried out at once. That's Artemis.
Your own wife, father, the white-armed Hera beat me. This strife, this warfare plaguing all the immortals, Hera's all to blame.
I'm my own father, Artemis.
Hera's kinda to blame. There's a lot of people who are to blame for this war.
Right.
When you get way, way, way down to it, I don't even know where to stop. Like, actually, I was going to say it would be Eris, the goddess of discord, for throwing the golden apple into the wedding. But the wedding is between Thetis and Peleus, who gave birth to Achilles later on. But Peleus was only given to Peleus because she was going to be married to Zeus, but then Zeus heard a prophecy that if Zeus and Thetis had a child, it would dethrone Zeus. So he instead gave her to Peleus. So really Zeus is to blame, or maybe Thetis' womb is to blame, or maybe
Thetis' womb,
who prophesized that would happen, is to blame, or maybe Eris is to blame, or maybe Aphrodite, or maybe Paris. It's really hard to tell.
I feel like it just kind of happens, and who's to blame is kind of rough to really decide for the beginning, but people stirred this pot really hard.
Yeah, Hera made it a lot worse.
Yep.
I also feel like every story with a prophecy is like, for some reason, that's like part of the root of how everything gets like turned upside down. So like, don't trust prophecies. That's what I feel like I learn over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with Macbeth.
It's like, yeah, this, Macbeth, Oedipus, Harry Potter. I mean.
Oh yeah, Harry Potter too.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of cool, like if these same stories, but the prophecy is never told to the main characters. What happens?
Oedipus,
yeah, well, it's always like pretty much all the prophecies, I think, are pretty much like, okay, never mind. Not all of them. Not even in my 4 examples are they the same.
Now I really want to know where you're going with this.
Well, I was gonna say, like, Like there's a hero and the prophecy is like about the hero, and then there's like a villain who's like I gotta kill the hero because of the prophecy, but that's that's not the Oedipus prophecy. That's pretty much
right. It just doesn't work. Yeah. I see. Prophecies suck. That's one thing we figured.
It is kind of, I mean, that is kind of what Zeus tried to do. So he's like, oh, if I marry Thetis, we'll have a child who will dethrone me and kill me. So I'm not going to marry Thetis. I'm going to give her to someone else instead. Now, her child still was Achilles, so he was still awesome. So, like, you can imagine if he was the son of Zeus and Thetis, he would have been, like, incredible.
Right.
But Zeus avoided that fate and caused the Trojan War.
Yeah.
It happened one way or another. But Zeus kept the spot.
Like all prophecies like make the effort to like try to like avoid fate, and that's like where you start getting messed up.
He, like, that's, if Oedipus didn't know the prophecy, or his parents didn't know the prophecy, the story wouldn't have happened. Like, the only reason he ends up killing his father and marrying his mother is because he didn't know that they were his father and mother, because he was adopted.
Right.
I see.
So it's like, if he never got given up for adoption, or they really tried to kill him, but if they never did that, then he would never have married his own mother, because he knew that she was his mother.
Right.
Because when he finds that out, he like blinds himself out of shame. Like, he wouldn't have done that normally. So it's like, it doesn't work.
I gotta say,
that's not a normal reaction.
It just happens, as one does.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. This also is like, sorry to interrupt, but like this is like a good way of like rephrasing God works in mysterious ways kind of thing. But like sometimes gods just do so many things where like you can, retroactively justify it, but even when you do that, it's just a shit show. I kind of like that.
All right, so speaking of gods acting in mysterious ways, after Hera just beats Artemis for no apparent reason.
Also I feel like the two like woman on woman fights we just saw like felt pretty clear that this was like, oh right, Homer is a dude. Like this is like what he thinks would happen if women are in battle.
Women fight with pillows.
The Athena one makes a lot of sense. That one is legitimate. She fought Ares because Ares attacked her. Aphrodite tried to protect Ares, so she attacked Aphrodite. That's like Achilles would have acted the same way.
I'm not saying the like reaction to fight. I'm just saying like how the fights just played out, because there was just like, I'm gonna punch you in the tits, and then there's like I'm gonna grab your bow and arrow and hit you in the ears with it.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Also, when Ares went to Zeus and was like, Daddy, they hit me, Zeus was like, I don't care. Go like somewhere else and go cry somewhere else. And Artemis came over and was like, Dad, it hurt. Baby.
Oh, for baby.
But he doesn't care enough to do anything about it. Really,
he just gives her a hug and is like, you must have done something to deserve this.
And now, as the powers wrangled back and forth, the Lord God Apollo entered holy Troy, filled with dread for the city's sturdy walls. What if the Argive forces stormed them down today against the will of fate? The rest of the gods who live forever soon returned to Mount Olympus, some enraged, some enraged, some in their proud, new won glory, and sat beside the Father, King of the Black Cloud. So the gods leave. But Achilles slaughtered on and on, never pausing, killing Trojans and skittish battle teams at once. As smoke goes towering into the broad vaulting sky from a burning town, and the god's wrath drives it on, dealing struggle to all, to many searing grief. So Achilles dealt the Trojans struggle and grief. But there on the god-built heights stood aged Priam. Priam, king of Troy, father of Paris and Hector. Haven't seen him since chapter 3. Here he is. He's looking out on the war. He saw the monstrous Achilles, and racing on before him, Trojans whipped in headlong flight, all rescue gone. The king cried out and clambered down to the ground from the high tower, issuing quick commands to veteran gateway guards beside the walls.
Spread the gates wide, all hands now, till our routed troops can straggle back to Troy. Achilles swarms over them, they're stampeding. A terrible mauling's coming. I can see it now. Once they've packed in the walls and catch their breath, close the thickest gates and bolt them tight again. I dread this murderous man. He'll burst right through our walls.
They spread the gates and rammed the door bars back, and the spreading gates made way for a ray of hope as Phoebus Apollo hurtled forth to meet Achilles, to fight disaster off the Trojan troops. Heading straight for the city's lofty ramparts, ragged with thirst, choked with dust from the plain, they fled as Achilles stormed them, shaking his spear, that wild, rabid frenzy always gripping his heart, blazing to seize his glory. Then and there, the Achaeans would have taken the lofty gates of Troy if Apollo had not driven Prince Agenor at them. Antenor's son, a courageous, rugged soldier, he inspired his heart with daring, standing near in person to beat away the dragging fates of death, leaning against an oak, concealed in swirls of mist. And now, as soon as Agenor saw Achilles coming, there he stood, poised for the scourge of cities, while the heart inside him heaved like heavy seas. Waiting, tense, he probed his own brave spirit.
If I run from Achilles' onslaught, taking the route the rest have fled, stampeding, he'll catch me even so and slash my coward's throat. But if I leave my comrades panicked before his charge, this Prince Achilles slip away from the wall on foot and race the other way, out to Ilium's plain and reach the spurs of Ida, hide in the underbrush, and then, in the dying light, once I've washed my sweat away in the river, yes, I just might make it back again to Troy. But why debate, my friend? Why thrash things out? God forbid that Achilles sees me turning tail, heading from town and out to open country. He'll come after me full tilt and run me down, and then no way to escape my death, my certain doom. Achilles is far too strong for any man on earth. Wait. What if What if I face him out before the walls? Surely his body can be pierced by bronze, even his. He has only one life, and people say he's immortal. It's only the son of Cronus handing him the glory.
Yeah, so... Sorry, I just scared Lacey.
Who is this prince?
Yeah, who's
It doesn't matter. He's just here.
Okay. He's just like, Achilles can die though, right?
That's important because, well, it's not really important to the story, but it's important to our myth of Achilles. So the whole thing about Thetis dipping him in the river Styx and he's immortal except for that one spot on his heel.
Oh, yeah.
That's only in some myths. And him dying because he's shot in the heel is only in some versions too. In some versions, he's just shot normally.
In some versions, he's just that good.
Yeah, like he's a person. He's not immortal. He's not a god. In like the average telling of the myth, he's shot in the heel, but it's not because that's his only weak spot. It's just like he was shot in the heel and died of infection.
Such a lame death.
Yeah.
That's war, Marat.
That's war. War is lame and not cool.
He could have gotten stabbed right beneath his nipple, like everybody else.
Yeah.
Like everyone else.
Just barely piercing through his breastplate and whatever.
Yes. Missing the golden part.
Yeah.
Hitting his blood spots, whatever. I don't even know how to speak like these people, but yes.
Yeah, so this guy's like, blah, 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 what should I do? Filled with resolve, he braced, waiting Achilles, his warrior blood incensed. He'd fight to the death as a panther springs forth from her thickest lair to stand and face the huntsman. No fear in her heart, no thought of flight when she hears the baying packs, and even if he's too quick with spear or lunging sword, even if she's run through, she never slacks her fury. until she's charged him hard or gone down fighting. And so the noble son of Antenor, brave Agenor, would never run until he's tested Achilles. He steadied his balanced shield before his chest, aimed his spear at the man, and flung his challenge.
Surely you must have hoped with all your heart, the great glorious Achilles, that you would raise the proud Trojans' city this very day. You fool! You still have plenty of pain to suffer for her sake. We have fighting men by the hundreds still inside her, forming a wall before our loving parents, wives and sons to defend Troy, where you where you rush on to meet your doom, headlong man as you are, breakneck man of war.
And he hurled his sharp spear. Lacey, you lay down. I'm almost done. Okay, good girl. He hurled his sharp spear from a strong hand, a hard, true hit on Achilles' shin below the knee. But the tin of the fire-new armor round his leg, making all kinds of noises. The tin of the fire-new armor round his leg let loose an unearthly ring. Back the spear sprang from the wondrous gear it struck, not punching through. The gift of the god Hephaestus blocked its force.
Jesus
Achilles
Christ.
next. He leapt at Prince Agenor, but Phoebus Apollo refused to let him seize the glory. He whisked Agenor off, wrapped in swirls of mist, and sped him out of the fighting, safely on his way, and then with trickery kept Achilles off the Trojans. True, just like Agenor, head to foot, the deadly archer stood in Achilles' path, and Achilles sprang in chase, feet racing, coursing him far across the wheat fields, heading him out towards Scamander's swirling depths, as the god led him a little, luring him on and on, always hoping to catch the god with bursts of speed. But all the while the rest of the Trojans fled en masse, thrilled to reach the ramparts, crowding, swarming in, no daring left to remain outside the city walls and wait for each other, learn who made it through, who died in battle. No, in a driving rout they came, streaming into Troy, any fighter whose racing legs could save his life.
That was cool. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now Agenor is still chill, but now he's like, yep, he's cheating.
And next up,
The death of Hector!
Oh, yeah. Man. Head of Hector.
the next chapter is the best chapter in the book.
That's sick.
So, yeah.
There's no more to it.
It's going to be a good one.
It's about to be sick. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Next week, like, comment, and subscribe.
Like,
Will Hector die, or is the chapter a fluke? Find out. I think everyone knows. I'm really excited.
me too.
This was actually definitely... I like that you said this is the best chapter in the book, because this was definitely the best scene in the movie. By far.
Him killing Hector. Yeah.
It was actually like, it was well choreographed. The whole thing made sense. The ending was cool. And then Priam was there like, ooh, no, oh, my little hickey. And
My little Hecky.
a little hickey.
My little heckin' boy.
My hickey wicky. Yeah, he dies. Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, spoilers, Hector dies.
Oh, man. See what, after Hector dies. Interesting. So this is like the penultimate big event in the book, no?
I mean, I would call this like the climax of the action. But it's not the end of the character arc.
Oh, that's true.
Because this
Well,
is
for Hector for sure, but
this is technically the story of Achilles' anger. Like the first line is sing of the rage of Achilles. And it shows like how it ruined his life, how it resulted in the death of his lover, And then at the end, how he gets over it and how he moves on past his anger.
He actually deals.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, that's sick.
Yeah.
I think Achilles needs grief counseling.
Yeah, she's thinking already in the next episode coming. She's planning. I like this a lot. I vote to be Achilles. I will only speak in his monologues.
I could give you like a bunch of quotes that like the only things you're allowed to say.
Yes. It's almost like whose line is it anyway? Like you can only say certain things.
Yeah. I don't want to like give away too much of it, but like Hector dies and that's great because Achilles. It's great for Achilles because that's what. He realizes that getting revenge didn't solve anything and doesn't help. He finds out that forgiveness helps.
Oh, wow.
Helps him move on past his anger and his grief, which is like a very modern lesson. Like
absolutely.
But also like a classic lesson. It's just like a great lesson to learn.
It's just a good lesson that we gotta learn.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one of the things I really, really like about this, because how old is like more than 2,000 years old?
Yeah.
The story. Like so many things are entirely applicable, so many things are entirely relatable, assuming that the translation does capture the intent of the author or like the mood.
Yeah.
Like this is a very real with the time story. Or every writer ever since has been lazy and has been saying the same thing. So I like either side of this.
I mean, it's
the way I phrased it, but this Colin came at the worst time. I was just talking smack about all writers in history. Not what I think. The way I wanted to phrase it.
Last time I come in, you accused me of having an Oedipus complex. This time I come in and you're talking hot shit. What?
Well, honestly, I thought you were like, I was like, maybe there's a chance it's Colin, but like, this is probably someone like somehow Zoom bombing us, right? Is this gonna be
Zoom bombing's a thing?
I was confused because you came in and your name is my name. Like,
yeah, that was the.
Why is my name your name?
I don't know. I think because
Christina Magni, imposter.
When we did a family Zoom with your family, remember I signed it on your computer?
Right.
That we had the extended Zoom.
That is what happened. You're right.
Come on, Christina sus. Kick her out.
But hi, how was work?
I saw your dad.
You saw my dad?
Yes. This is what I wanted to tell you. My dad, or not my dad, your dad. What happened is that I was walking home, or not walking home. I was walking to my car from work, and then a truck passes me, and then immediately stops and pulls in reverse, like as fast as an actual car drives. And I was like, "Oh God, who is this person who's about to attack me?" And I look in, and it's your dad. And your dad says, "Hey, need a ride?" And I was like,
"Oh,
no, this is my car."
That is sweet of him, though. That's sweet.
It was. It was really. It was very nice.
Aggressively sweet of him.
I know. I almost wanted to take him up on the offer just to bond with him.
Yeah, I can't leave my car here.
But like, imagine
take a cab back to
he like drives me home, and then I have to take a cab back. Yeah, no way.